as we watched last week, Phil Jackson allowing Dennis Rodman to take a vacation during the season, as he did, and the other things we've seen from Phil. You know, I remember back when I was around those teams at those times, I think there were a lot of people who felt any coach might have won with a group of players that good, and then people said the same thing when he went to L.A. and he had Shaq and Kobe. If there's one thing that comes from this, and watching some of the insides of it, I think I've developed a renewed respect for how hard the job was for Phil Jackson, how well he did it. Do you believe Phil Jackson, Michael Wilbon, does not get enough respect and credit for all the championships they won?
Well, he did at the time, I think, but now we don't take into account anything that happened before yesterday. And so everybody's a prisoner of the moment. Phil Jackson, Greeny, just the Rodman episode alone shows the sort of management superiority. And he had a tag team partner. I mean, he and Michael did that. Just think if that happens today, all right? And a player goes to a coach. Jalen, you know, if a player comes to a coach and says, I got to take a couple of days off to blow off some steam. First of all, the coach has got to tell his owner. The owner's got to tell the league. The league gets involved. And in Rodman's case, do they consider it behavior detrimental to the team or the league? Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan just managed this on their own. And they got Dennis back in the fold, and it meant, you know, Michael going ultimately to Dennis's place to say, no, you're going to get up and come to practice. The story is insane, but it illustrates, I think, guys, better than any story, the management of this. Phil Jackson had to manage a general manager who said to him on the eve of the season, you can go 82-0 and you're still not coming back. How would coaches handle that today with social media? I mean, Jerry Krause would have been fired. He would not be able to maintain his job in today's culture. But yeah, I think that Phil Jackson, the way he got there, you saw Michael say on camera, I was not a Phil Jackson fan. Michael wanted Doug Collins to be his coach. And it's great to see him, you know, just sort of own that position and go back into real time and talk about how he felt. So Phil had so many big things, not minutes, not whose team is it, not shots. He had big fish to fry, and he got it done year after year after year with two franchises.
What do you think, Jay?
Absolutely. And for everybody out there that want to dismiss the greatness of Phil Jackson, unfortunately for me, the Pacers were there in '98 when he won his final one with the Bulls, and we were there in 2000 when he won his first one with Shaq and Kobe. And all of those great players, all of those championships, you know who they won them with? Phil Jackson or Pat Riley. All of those players.
Yep.
You can look, there's a record with Phil Jackson on the sideline, and then there's a record without Phil Jackson and or Pat Riley on the sideline with all of those great players. So don't dismiss Phil Jackson. He went on to win 5 more championships after he left the Bulls. They never recovered since he did.
It's an excellent point. And quickly, while you brought up that '98 Pacers team, Michael, I know you had some thoughts on that.
Well, Jalen and I spent enough time together in the spring over many years that we have gone over and dissected almost like possession by possession. Look, the Pistons, obviously, the Bulls had to get through the Pistons, and going through that helped make them who they were, just like the Pistons going through the Celtics. And the Knicks obviously there were some great rivalry series in there over a period of years. I think the Bulls beat them 4 times. Jordan's Bulls beat them 4 times. 4 different coaches, I think, as well. But those Pacers teams that Jalen was a member of with Reggie Miller, and that team came the closest to beating a championship Bulls team. Jalen, I don't know what the lead was in the fourth quarter. In my head, it was 7 points with about 3.5 minutes to play. Maybe I'm a little bit off. But I remember sitting in the United Center thinking, wow, this is the first time I've thought since they became champions that somebody was going to dethrone them. And that's totally overlooked. I can't believe those games aren't played. I'm tired of seeing San Antonio versus Miami in 2013 and 2014 on the replay. Give me some Pacers Bulls. I mean, you guys weren't afraid of them, but it didn't have to be so physical. The state of Indiana, being the basketball crazed place that it was, they knew how to treat Michael Jordan. They booed him. This wasn't like Madison Square Garden going to the world's most famous arena and being serenaded by a visiting audience. This wasn't that. And so I, as a Chicagoan, as a neighbor and a person who's understood the rivalry between the two places, I loved those Pacers teams and the rivalry, the competition between those Bulls and Pacers.
And also, Greeny, I got my disdain and or rooting interest against Michael Jordan honest because I'm a Bad Boys fan. Like I told you, when they walked off and didn't shake the Bulls' hand, trust me, the entire state of Michigan was in that line with the Pistons. Don't ever get it twisted. And for people who see that footage and get upset at Isaiah, remember, Bird comes out and says, when we lost to the Lakers, I didn't shake their hand. I never did that. And so we knew that Michael was going for his second three-peat. Okay, so me just being a young player, just a bug on the windshield with all of these great historic figures, Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Larry Bird, Reggie Miller, Mark Jackson, Chris Mullin. I'm just like, wait a minute, we have a real chance to do something special. And for us to be up double figures early in the game, they put Pip on Mark Jackson and they interrupted our offense. They had an 8-point lead late, and then they had an 8-point lead late, and then we came back. But ultimately, it's about Tony Kukoc. He never gets discussed. The waiter, the initial stretch forward that they had, he was a difference maker. He had 21 points in Game 7.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.